An interception. Relo.
What a remarkable drive, man. That's an All-American drive right here.
It's not exactly unwarranted. Like, when you have a guy as that electric.
The legend himself, the GOAT, Dre Crowell.
Where my warm bottle movement at?
That kills your argument right there. Anything can happen. This game is not over.
What's good, Relocation Football League fans? It's your boy Smitty here, joined with Forbes, our stat man, mathematician, and of course, he's the big brain here when it comes beyond stipulations and things like that for the playoffs, which is crazy when we get to the playoffs what to talk about, his predictions and how things turned out, especially on the NRC side. But glad to have you here on the podcast with us, Forbes. Bill unable to join us tonight, but we are going to go through the final scores of Week 18. Then after we go through the final scores of Week 18, we're going to go ahead and get a look at who won the yearly awards. I am working on graphics for that, which I will be posting on social media. Still a lot of work to do there for that, but should have that up and for you guys tomorrow afternoon. Got graphics ready to go for the playoffs, for the game day, final scores and things like that to post up. Then after we go through the award winners, we're going to go ahead and get a look at the playoff bracket, give our predictions, what we think is going to happen, our early Relo Bowl predictions first on, and then after that, we're just going to watch and see how it pans out, but just to see if everything stays the same at this point. And then after that, we're going to just do a recap of the season, going through, showing you guys stats, things like that, top 5 guys, top 10 if you want, and open questions along with fun facts with Pat. You guys already know how it is. But first off, we're going to go ahead and get a look at this final week of the regular season. And we were stacked with games here, 12 total games we had here. The Monarchs and the Thunderbirds in that game. These guys, not really too much to talk about here. We know the situation with the Toronto Thunderbirds. One of the biggest issues with the T-Birds comes with durability, and injuries have plagued them a lot in the postseason. Didn't want to risk any players, and so they sat all of their guys for this game at home against the Monarchs, which really helped out the Monarchs, which you'll see why if you haven't looked at the playoff bracket. But the Monarchs came out, they got it done against the backups there, 24-6, and they were able to finish their season 12-5. Then you had a crazy game. Forbes, you did a little bit of the same. You sat, a few big name guys, but the Wizards were finally able to get a victory over you, 33-30 in overtime. It looked like it was a complete blowout at first, but somehow you guys flipped it around, almost came out on top of that one. Just before we move on to any games, what was your thoughts on that matchup and just how it all panned out? You there, Forbes?
Oh, can you still hear me? Yeah. I'm making sure it didn't drop me out again.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to my matchup, I felt like this is a game where I had a good chance. I only sat 3 or 4 people, but it showed that maybe the NR South isn't as easy as I think it's going to be for years to come. Leo Moon finally showed something, against a good opponent. But I will say I'm very excited with how Rainbow's played. Shows that we have a strong future in the quarterback room after gone after next year. I'm about that.
Okay, you got some you can cut out still a little bit here, but good, heard most of that, so that's good. We had the Sentinels taking on Sentinels taking on the Bisons, and the Sentinels able to get their win in their final game of the season. Bisons, had it rough there, 31-20, the final score. So a great way to end out the season for the Sentinels. A tough one for the Bisons because they were trying to ride out on top with some good wins. I mean, just a week ago, they got themselves a solid win. Just couldn't get it done there, even at home against the Sentinels. So shout out to Tor for that. Then this game was crazy. The Chicago Tigers and the Shamrocks. And this was an all-out battle back and forth, and the Tigers, a must-win game to give themselves a chance to try to make the playoffs. And, it was neck and neck, 27-27. And after the score, on the kickoff afterwards by the Shamrocks, the Chicago Tigers were able to take home a kick return for a touchdown by old veteran running back, former Toronto Thunderbird, Rashawn Overstreet. And they ended up taking the lead 34-27. That ended up being the final. Chicago finished off their season 12-5. A fantastic game. If you didn't see it, go back and watch it. But a great way to finish the season there for Chicago. Then we had the same deal when we're talking about guys sitting. A couple teams, quite a bit of teams were sitting there, guys. To add to the group, the Portland Riverhawks did the same. They didn't have a lot of their guys in at all here against the Pioneers, and the Pioneers came out with a pretty handed victory here, 44-20. Javier Santana able to get his first RFL career win, and just great way to end the season off for those guys as well. And the Riverhawks and Coach Machiavelli already had the division in the 4th seed sewn up. Nothing was going to change there, so why not sit the guys? Don't want to risk any injuries. You about to say something for us?
I was going to say this is what we expected. What we got from the Pioneers in this game is what we expected from the Monarchs. When they played the Thunderbirds and they set everybody, it's just not what we got. And it makes me a little worried to see. Obviously, this was the first game we talked about, but to see the Monarchs have to go against the Thunderbird starters if Anthony Gonzalez was knocking them up a little bit here and there.
Yeah, that's an interesting take there, man. Definitely gonna get more into that because I mean, back-to-back times you're gonna be they're facing off against each other. The Black Knights, big shock here, man. Absolutely destroyed the Armadillos, 41-7. I guess Jacob McCall heard you talking crazy about him, man, because this dude came out here threw 5 touchdown passes and led over the Armadillos 41-7. I mean, that was just an incredible ending to an incredible season, I have to say, for the London Black Knights. They finished 11-6. So I mean that's a great end.
I
nobody
think
expected them to at least do that.
I think this game just further solidified my point from last week, though. If McCall had maybe 6 less intercept, he finished with 22. If he would have had maybe 16 and didn't let the Aviators come back or didn't let the Bulldogs come back, they would be a playoff team, which is what I said last week. If you or 2 weeks ago, whenever the last time we were on here, if you cut his interceptions in half, the Black Knights would have made the playoffs this year.
Yeah, he was up there with picks. 22.
22. He finished second most behind. I think Chumley had 23 or 24.
Yeah, 22 interceptions. Had 36 touchdowns, but Picks was up there. But a great way to finish off the season there for the Black Knights and McCall. Unfortunately, we did not get this game, man. I'll have to play the bell for Coach Davis, and I'm gonna have to play another bell for CC Ekenechukwu, man, because finally got interceptions in the game, and it's the only game that we don't have on record this year to look back on. And the Red Dragons ended up getting it done 28-20. Not going to spend much time at all there because obviously we didn't have anything to look at. But Red Dragons needed that win. Now they're officially in the playoffs, and this is a team that's undefeated in the playoffs. We'll talk more about that. It was a great game here with the Desperados versus the Lancers. It was starting to get out of control for a moment at the beginning of the game, but the Lancers, they came back. They made it a close game, and the Desperados were able to hold on 24-22. And there was really nothing else really to talk about here when it comes to this game. Neither team's, in contentions at all for the playoffs. So it's just who was going to finish out the season on a good note. Desperados got their lick back because last time these guys played, the Lancers absolutely handled them, but they could not do that there in Austin as the Desperados handled business. The Elks, man, able to win the NRC West. They actually ended up finishing out the rest of the season with victories, 34-16, the final score. They will remain the number 4 seed, and this is their second time within 3 years in which they got it done. No one expected the Salt Lake City Elks to be able to do this, but it all talks about what LaShaven and Worrell's been able to do this season. Darius Martin having the best year, led all running backs and rushing yards this year, and it all just came together. Defense playing solid. And they beat the Crusaders and got their look back as well with a 34-16 victory. And this was probably the scariest game for coaches of all. Bill having to play the Gunners. I knew it wasn't going to be easy on them because the Gunners, even though they started out rough, they started really flipping things in the second half of the season. And, man, if the Explorers had lost this game, they would have been knocked out of the playoffs after just a season ago going undefeated and winning the championship for the first team in RFL history to ever do so. And it was a war back and forth, 24-24, but the Explorers were able to kick a field goal to take a lead, 27-24. And on the last drive, Jabreet Jackson, even though he played solid throughout the game, threw an interception. And who'd he test? Number 33, Rashad Chamberlain. He's been closing out games for the Explorers all season long, and this was the biggest game he closed out as he was able to cement their ticket into going to the postseason once again. This is still the only team in RFL history to never, throughout its franchise existence, miss a playoff zone. And they were very close within this game. And then I'll just finish out the rest. And if there's anything you want to talk about, like any specific games, you can go ahead and add on to that. But the Cougars first, I don't think it's their first losing season. They had losing season before, but losing season here as they could not finish against the Voyagers. 4 straight RFL losses and all 4 tough opponents. But, you know, again, the struggles were still the same as it was throughout the season. Voyagers, tough, hard-fought battle. They were able to get it done 34-15 pretty handedly. Glenn Hay finishes off the season with 40 touchdown passes. I mean, that's just incredible. He had over 40 last year. So, I mean, just continuing to do what he's been doing throughout his career, and a great flip around because in the first half of the season for the Voyagers, things just really wasn't going all too well for him. But he really started to pick up the pace when needed most. And in the final game, the same exact score as the Explorers and Gunners game, and just as hype, definitely game of the week, lived up to all the hype. The final game of the regular season, Dublin Celtic Tigers and the London Bulldogs in the big rivalry, and Forbes and dropped out. Forbes, if you're in the Discord, man, I'm gonna just switch this to the solo cam and cut off, leave the I would say leave the Zoom call. Well, you're already out of the Zoom call, so his internet must have fell out. But hey, Forbes, can you hear me? Okay, just came back. Forbes.
Yeah.
Hey, I was saying what's probably happening is probably can't hold the Zoom call and then you talking. So I would recommend you leave the call and then
I
just
switched networks.
I'd recommend you leave the call and then join. Just stay within the Discord. Well, not leave the Discord call. Leave the Zoom. Yeah, because that's probably gonna help you. Said, nah, he's still glitching. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna survive, man.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, I was saying leave the Zoom call because it's probably just not going to work because you got 2 apps working and your internet just can't hold it. So I would say just leave the Zoom call and just stay within the Discord talking. You should be all right.
Oh, well, no. Now I switched back to a different network. I'm on Zoom with my laptop, but I'm on Discord with my phone.
Okay. Makes sense. We'll see if it holds up. Well, it's still skipping.
Is it skipping a little bit?
Yeah, it's still skipping. I'd recommend just dropping out of the Zoom call altogether because you're just getting stuck. Yeah.
Oh, well.
All right. There you go. All right. So that was the final scores of the final week of the regular season, guys. And man, it was a great final week. We had some great games. Look forward to, all of these matchups. Had some big rivalries. Of course, the Celtic Tigers and London Bulldogs game, like I said, was the game of the week. Lived up to all the hype, man, and battle for the #1 seed in the ARC. And the Bulldogs able to edge out the Celtic Tigers and do it back-to-back years. So, I mean, it's just a big feat right there. Got it done in London after a tough loss way back in week 4 to the Celtic Tigers, 30-16. So I can't wait to see what the playoffs is going to hold. We're about to get into that, but before we do get into that, we're going to show you guys the award winners for the season. So let me go ahead and take this off. Forbes, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, cool. All right.
I would say with that Bulldogs, are you shocked that I'm pretty sure back-to-back seasons where they're the 1 seed?
I'm not really shocked at all because I think even like last year we knew they were going to be great and probably just as good because how stacked that team was. And honestly, we were saying that even before this season started that, the Bulldogs are the #1 team we expect to be in the conference. And, the consistency is great that they have that they've shown that, and they lived up to exactly, what we expected them to do with such a great roster. And I mean, it came close. Celtic Tigers, we know that's the main team that they've been having to compete with in that division. to maintain the top position as the Kings of the East. And man, it went an absolute war, got it done, able to split it, avoided a sweep in which they were able to sweep the Celtic Tigers last year. So I mean, the way in which it happened, them winning again, not surprised. But I mean, I'm just anxious to see if they can go all the way this year. What's your thoughts on the situation?
I'm not shocked when they made the playoffs. I am surprised they were the back-to-back, one seed. I thought maybe CT would take it. I just think the ARC is so competitive that you don't expect the same team to be the best team in the conference 2 years in a row, record wise anyway.
Yeah. Let's see the next. I don't think there was a team that got 13 wins in the ARC, was there?
No, the Miners had 13,
oh,
the
yeah,
Huskies had
okay.
13,
Yeah,
and
so
then the Bulldogs had 4, and then CT obviously had 13.
okay, yeah. So a bit of a difference, from the NRC, a little bit more competitive, like you said. But yeah, I'm not shocked by the Bulldogs, man. That's a great roster, especially their defense. That defense is really what gets it done there, and it was defense that got it done within that game. And that defense, man, is really going to help out. If Timmy Merrick can be locked and loaded throughout the playoffs, I mean, these guys can go far, man. Can't wait to see what happens in the playoffs, though. But here we are getting a look at the award winners for this year. Like I said, I don't have any graphics to show you guys because I'm still working on them. Could not get them all done before the podcast, so I'm just show you the end game look at who won the award, and then of course the rankings and stuff like that. So here we go. I'm gonna start off in the ARC since it's the original conference. You know what I'm saying? They came first, so they get the first showing.
Yeah. Whatever you say, man.
And so Keith Guyton winning Offensive Player of the Year. Not going to go down the list, guys. I'm just going to show you guys who won it. Keith Guyton ended up winning Offensive Player of the Year. This guy was absolutely explosive. We'll go through stats towards the end of this podcast.
Are you saving MVP for after?
Yeah, I'm saving the MVP for last.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Keith Guyton ends up winning this Offensive Player of the Year award. Just able to edge out Cam Jones. We knew these two guys, were going to be going at it, man. And they absolutely did. Keith Guyton finished out the season, had a record-breaking season. We'll get to stats and everything. I did update the history record books, so I'll tell you guys about who got in the record books, top 10s, and things like that. Defensive Player of the Year, Carter Delahart, the Voyagers. Linebacker, they use him off the edge. I'm about to say defensive end because he just plays off the edge all the time. But, man, tied for the league high in sacks at 23 to finish off the season as he takes home Defensive Player of the Year there in the ARC. Last year was Drew Brewer, and you see Drew Brewer was a close second there. He was a close first, just underneath. Offensive Rookie of the Year ends up being DJ Evans, wide receiver from Baylor. And now here on the Pioneers, he had a great season, 10 touchdowns on the year. You had, of course, Amari Harris right there following underneath. He ended up ending the season with over 1,000 yards. So that's a great achievement there in a rookie season for Harris, especially on the team that he was on. Great last game for him. And then Miles McCain there at third. This was the guy, the situation we were talking about. But understanding the reason as to why McCain just didn't get there was because of the interception ratio to touchdowns. And if he had maybe a few less interceptions, I think he would have been up here. But he also just didn't have the league high. There's just so many other quarterbacks that were high on touchdowns. I think it kind of skewed him a little bit. But Miles McCain definitely was.
I'm just glad we don't bet on awards because I'm pretty sure 99% of people would have picked Miles McCain.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest here too. In my opinion, I would have chose McCain because DJ Evans
13-4.
Yeah, I understand why they got him here, but to be honest, I wouldn't have. I still feel like McCain compared to these guys, they had good seasons. Maybe DJ Evans is a bit competitive because of the amount of touchdowns he had, but even so, he didn't even have 1,000 yards receiving, and so that was a kind of different for me. I guess I can, like I said, from the game's point of view, I can understand from the interception amount and the amount of touchdowns, but I honestly would have chose Miles McCain as well.
I would have too, but
these guys, good seasons, but I still feel like the quarterback, he still had more touchdowns than those two combined, So I don't know, just didn't work out in the favor there within the game. DJ Evans, though, getting that Defensive Rookie of the Year. Tank Frost, this guy led this since the very beginning. So Tank Frost has been out there killing for the Black Knights. And honestly, it wasn't like the Black Knights defense was all too trash this year. I mean, they got beat quite a bit of times, but they actually stepped up in quite a bit of games. And you saw this guy flying all over the place, and he rightfully takes home the Defensive Rookie of the Year award.
Is that a back-to-back for the Black Knights, or am I thinking of 3 years ago with the linebacker who got Defensive
I
Rookie of
think
the
you're
Year?
thinking about a few years ago, season 6. That was Carter,
Oh,
Roland Carter, who won that.
yep.
Yeah, he won the defensive rookie. So man, 2 defensive rookie of the years, excuse me, in the last 3 years, both linebackers. That's pretty interesting. And Eves, he wasn't even supposed to be here, but thank goodness he didn't get the award. Um, Looking at positional awards now, best quarterback, you got Glenn Hay. Glenn Hay, like I said, had the most touchdowns in the conference, finished with 40. And then you had Anthony Savoy. Anthony Savoy was running this for a while. And then, hey, like I said, he really turned things around later within the season, started throwing up high volumes of touchdowns. And he ends up taking home the Best Quarterback of the Year award for the ARC. Then best running back, Kingston Kinney, able to hold on, able to get it this year within the file. He did not get it last year, but he got it here. Led the conference. Guy said he was slowed down, but still had a phenomenal season. Yeah, just was able to top Langford Cloud and Trey Worsley, who also had great seasons right there. Best wide receiver, obviously it's going to be the guy who won Offensive Player of the Year, Keith Guyton. And again, you got Cam Jones, a close second, Matt Naomi. The usual names that we see here. The Keith Guyton taking home the Best Wide Receiver of the Year award there. I think he hasn't won this award. I have to go back. He probably this is probably his 3rd time winning the award. I know he won it in season 1. This one season where he went off, I think was season 4. He won that, and then this year, so 3 times he's won this award. Then we got best offensive lineman, which I'm glad this is not based off of overalls anymore, because we got a different guy other than Dion Gunn and who's the guy, DeMarcus the Great. Yeah, DeMarcus the Great, who wins it. So I think now they've taken into account that stats matter. So now you got a new lineman. He's never won this award before. Teddy Hattemore, Bison's lineman, winning best offensive lineman in the ARC. Shock there, and just to mention a few other names. You got D. Royster from the Aviators, 2 Aviators, man, and there goes the Great at 4.
I mean, you got 3 Aviators, Tenants at 7.
Yeah, so that whole line was putting in work. All right, and then we get a look at best defensive lineman. This guy has won this award 2 years in a row, man. Shout out to the Bear, Drew Brewer. He finished the season with 21 sacks. I think he was 3rd in the RFL in sacks. But with the 2 guys who tied for first, absolute monster, coming right back into a back-to-back beast seasons off the edge, man. And this is like their top guy, man, that's causing the most ruckus on defense, especially on that line. And if rightfully so, he takes it. Charles Raymond, shout out to him. This is the OG who's been here since season 1, and I kind of felt like he was dying down. His overall has dropped tremendously compared to what it was. But he had a phenomenal season with the Red Dragons this year, and actually finished 2nd for best defensive lineman in the ARC. So I mean that right there, just seeing that name there, still after all these years, was shocking.
I do want to call shout out. Was it Olumbi Easy?
Olumbi Easy, yeah, he was balling too.
Man, trading away. What's his name? Traded away to the Huskies.
Calvin Lunsford.
Trading away Calvin Lunsford finally gets his shot to go in UC 78. He's young, and he balled out on a team that was. He's part of the reason this team overperformed.
Yeah,
and I'm glad to see he's up there.
Yeah, good take there, man. And Jermaine Taylor got in the mix here. I just want to shout out Jermaine. He was balling with the Bulldog. Shout out Jermaine, man. But looking at best linebacker, of course, it's the best defensive player of the year for the ARC. Carter Delahart, Michael Frier coming in 2nd there. He had a phenomenal season too with the Celtic Tigers this year. He's getting in on a lot of sacks as well. But of course, Carter Delahart playing off that edge, man. He's just killing it out of that defense. And best defensive back, the record-breaking interceptor in RFL history, Le'Veon Henry, 11 picks The record was 9. Of course, I'll get more into records later on, but Le'Veon Henry having a record season, and of course leading all defensive backs in interceptions this season with, once again, like I said, 11. Parker Brocker's also there in the history books, getting 10. So he even broke the previous record. A lot of great cornerback play this year. We know the situations, just this year, Madden, when it came to man coverage and things like that, these corners are tough to beat. And these are still our elite guys. You could see here, Shaquille Tiller, great season. Lynn Mayberry, old, but still getting it done. Xavier Eves, Staymates. I mean, the usual, some of the usual names. Seen a couple names there that's new. But Le'Veon Henry, what a season, man. Definitely deserved this award. Killed it on the outside for the Red Dragons. And then we get into the best kicker, and there we go. Even though Miles McCain might not have got it, Miners get themselves a guy, and it's the kicker, Anthony Carney, who is kicker of the year in the ARC. Don't really have too much to say about
Is
kickers.
Florida even in the top 10, man? This is supposed to be his award.
No, right there you go, Michael Florida. He's ranked 9th. He's ranked 9th.
Disappointing.
This is what you spend a first round draft pick on, man. You get the luxury of spending a first round draft pick on, I guess, if you're the Bulldogs. But yeah. So that's the awards for the ARC, and then for the conference MVP, it is Glenn Hay. Glenn Hay wins the ARC MVP. If I'm not mistaken, I can't remember. I'm slipping off my head who won it last. Did he win this last year?
I want to say he won it last year.
So this is 2 years back to back. Glenn Hay, conference MVP. So I mean, Glenn Hay's a dog, man. And shout out to Hay. Old head, still out here since season 1, 8 years with this franchise, balling, sending them to the playoffs once again, man. Shout out to Baker, who's really been, helping this guy along with his career and things of that nature. So, and that's awesome to see there. And then we'll go ahead and get into the ARC. Is there anything you want to say?
I was, especially with the turnaround the Voyagers. I don't know how many of you remember, but at one point the Voyagers were 4-5 in RFL games. They had lost 3 straight.
Yeah.
And then to make a comeback like that, to win conference MVP, sneak into the playoffs, I mean, it's a good story.
Yeah, great story. A lot of storylines, man. This is why the playoffs is always the focal point of the RFL. It's the best time to watch it because you're just going to see a lot of storylines develop even more at this point. The playoffs, we'll get into that, man, when it comes. But I'm gonna go ahead and close this so that way I can go into the other conference. Is there anything you want to say about that or anything? Period. While I go switch over, you can go ahead and talk.
I just want to say that Diablos are winning it all. I don't care what the rest of you have to say. It's just going to happen. It's facts. You can all talk amongst yourselves, but that's what's going to happen.
You going to use that G word?
No, not yet.
All right.
I'll give you a 99%.
99. All right. So here we go. Now in the NRC conference, we have Offensive Player of the Year going to Romeo Jackson. This guy swooped kind of out of nowhere. I mean, he was in the top 5, top 3 for majority of the season, but for a moment, Piku McCullough, your guy, he looked like he had this in the bag, and Romeo Jackson, man, had a sim game last week and went off, and he was going off this season as well. Definitely between these two. So, man, Romeo Jackson, and shout out to him. As Justin Jones like to say, best wide receiver. He can say in the conference. Can't say the league, but he can say in the conference now. But at least for this season. But that's a great award right there for Romeo Jackson. I believe that's the first time he's ever won that award there. So that's impressive. And I like the fact that Madden has switched it up where it's not quarterback based anymore, because I think all of our offensive player of the years for the most part has been all quarterbacks. So they switched it up now where they've had different value systems for different positions and got a wide receiver that wins the award, man. So shout out to Romeo Jackson. Had the yards, had the touchdowns. Congratulations to him. Piku McCullough coming in second. 2 Diablos here. Madison Axel there. High volumes and touchdowns this year. All right, going for Defensive Player of the Year. This is bar none the best player this year. I mean, Nishan Richardson
by far
has had the craziest of seasons that you could ask for. And I know Sultan, as his name is usually in the chat, got to feel some kind of way. He switched over from repping his guy to where'd he go again? The Snowhawks, yeah,
Uh,
with Jed.
yes,
And
Hawks.
even though both of them are now in the playoffs, but man, to do that and then this guy have this season, I mean, he finished with 51 tackles for loss as a D tackle. We'll go more into his statistics, but
Didn't he
this
also
guy,
have like 20 sacks? Like,
yeah, had over 20 sacks, over 100 tackles
yeah,
at a defensive tackle position. So
this
by
is the best
far,
season we've ever seen.
yeah, best season for a defensive player ever. Yeah, by far. Yeah. So Marvin Wolfall coming in second. Floyd, he had a great season there. Anyone shocked here about? Not really. Tyler
I,
Cage finishing there top 10.
yeah, I mean, I guess sacks really carried it, but maybe Chamberlain being a little higher.
Yeah. All right, so offensive rookie of the year goes to Caleb Houston, man, wide receiver from Ohio State, the two-time national championship winner from the Columbus Explorers. Devontae Sharkley was in the running. He did not play the last week of the season, as I talked about. Didn't want to risk any injury, so that kind of got him out the conversation there. And Lewis Happ was just able to jump him at 2. But Caleb Houston going to be getting some good XP here as he takes home the award. Shout out to CH, man. I don't know if he's in the chat, but you guys on top there. Defensive rookie of the year is one of the guys we expected to do it, and that was Tyler Cage. He tied the RFL record, which was set by last year's rookie and Jacob Reed for tackles in a single season, 193. So I mean, it's just a remarkable season for him. The Gunners were able to turn things around. He had a pick six to help seal the game too in the RFL, like he did in college at Alabama. So I mean, he came in, fit in right nicely. Had some struggles, but helped this team rebound and have a at least finish on the winning side of things record wise as a whole. So. And shout out to him. Devontae Moore came there second. We could talk about some rookies here. Keno Thedford there at third. He was up there, man. He actually was like second for most of the time. Tyler Cage, I think, was running this. Keno Thedford did lead it for a few weeks because he was up there in sacks, but kind of slipped off with the sack totals. Nolan Carroll right there at fourth. Maurice Rising 5. Richard Grooms. Keegan Meyer. I expected Keegan to be up there a little higher
Definitely
this
expected
season.
KJ to be higher.
But it was just, just given the situation, their schedule, who they had to play, it was tough for him to get back there and really make the plays with the quarterbacks in which he's had to face. Still did a pretty decent job, but yeah, definitely still expecting him to be a bit higher there. Aiden Freeman and Joel Howard and Braylon King Moore. I don't think we talked about any offensive rookies here. Yeah, we talked Glenn Sharp, D'Amico Brewer there at 6, Joshua Jeffries at 5, Trey Drain, Pecan there at 8, Enrique Burgeon, Eric, and then McKinley Weeks. All right, so looking at best quarterback, I mean, this is easy. We knew this was going to be the best quarterback award winner here. Reed Wagner, phenomenal year. He threw for over 5,600 passing yards this year, man, over 40 touchdowns. Absolute beast. Daryl Johnson just was trailing him. Second year in a row, Daryl Johnson finishes second for best quarterback. So tough for him. Did he get any awards last year? He won Offensive Rookie of the Year, but I think that was it.
I think that was it.
Yeah, so I mean, a tough break for Daryl Johnson, man.
Because Jabri got
Yeah,
quarterback and MVP.
yeah, and it's going to be the same thing for Reed Wagner. I don't even think we should I don't think this is even an afterthought for guys. I mean,
I personally would have picked Richardson for MVP.
for MVP, yeah, and that's tough to do though for over an offensive player though, especially
Yeah, I
with the
know.
season that Reed Wagner had, because his stats was crazy too. So that's tough. But yeah, Nashawn Richardson, if there was a defensive MVP ever for a league, that guy probably could have got it. But yeah, Worrell in the mix here. What a season Worrell had. He finished with 37 touchdown passes and 7 interceptions. I mean, this guy was a monster. And a few of those interceptions probably came from NFL games. I'm not even sure. I didn't check that. Lane Kearney, rebound season for him there with you guys in Mexico City there 4. LC3 at 5. Jabri Jackson still was in the talks, man. He still had a phenomenal season as well, despite the struggles. Ben Wakefield, Kai Cash getting in there 8. Wilson and Ryan Brinker. Best running back of the year. Madison Axel able to hedge it out. Didn't have as many touchdowns as Cornell Mickens. Too shy, but he did have the most yards. Did he have the most yards in the conference?
No, Martin had like 200 more
Oh
yards
yeah,
than
yeah,
him.
yeah. Martin went crazy, but the reason why Martin's all the way down here at 4, even though honestly, in my opinion, there are a few awards in which, like, if I had to make a difference, I would make the change there. But I can understand it. You know what I'm saying? And Darius Martin, I
I
mean,
thought he only had 9 touchdowns.
yeah, he only had 9 touchdowns on the year, so that really hurt him because that's almost twice as many, 2 times less to how many touchdowns even Cornell Mickens had, because he had 17, and then
Yeah,
Axel had the 15.
15.
So I still probably, honestly, in my opinion, I feel like Darius Martin this year was the best running back, but just couldn't
Hey,
get
I'm
in
not
the
gonna
end zone.
complain.
Yeah, couldn't get in the end zone. Yeah, of course not. Axel, I think he's won best running back of the year before.
No, Tavion Hall won it
Tavia, oh
last
yeah,
year.
he stole it. Yeah, so Axel, hey, gets the award this year, man. Best wide receiver, of course, going to go to the Offense Player of the Year. Same deal in the ARC with Keith Guyton. Romeo Jackson gets that. Elijah Bentley, he was leading this category for both, honestly, and just didn't pop off his last game. I don't think he saw the end zone. I think he saw the end zone maybe once, but Romeo Jackson's game towards the end is what took the cake. And so, yeah, and then Pico McCullough there finishing at 3, Amari Manuel 4. Anybody shocking here? Not necessarily. Yeah, so that's it for best wide
I could see
receiver.
CJ Robinson being all the way down at 8, but I mean, they had. I guess it's because they had
Yeah, it was a
a what's
different type of season for them, and
yeah,
and the way he utilizes his receivers and stuff on offense is different. So CJ Robinson he still had a great year. I think he had over 1,300
yeah,
yards.
yeah,
Yeah,
great year. Just you expect to see him in the top 3.
yeah. He
He's,
didn't get
he's
the
usually
what it
conference.
was. He didn't see the end zone much. He only had 7 touchdowns. I
Yeah,
remember that. So that was the issue there for him. Best offensive lineman Isaac McCullum, and this is crazy because he featured in the RFL Top 100 last time we did it, and now here he is winning an award for the first time in his career. Like I said, it's the first time anybody outside of the usual guys won Best Offensive Lineman of the Year. So yeah, shout out to Isaac McCullum from the Steamers. And man, shout out to Pat McNeil too, because he was actually leading this throughout the season and just lost it the last week. Man, let's get hashtag Pat in the chat. He's a valued community member here. Hey, next year might be your year, my guy. Still a young lineman within this league. This guy only 21 years old, so expect to see this guy possibly win this award in the future later on. Nobody else really here. Tank Dominic's finishing 6th. That's a draft pick panning out there. All right. Defensive lineman, of course, is going to be Nishan Richardson. He was the best defensive player of the year this year. And nothing else really to say about that. Just best year ever for a defensive tackle. And yeah, usual suspects right here. Well, the rest of the guys left. Devontae Moore getting there for best defensive lineman at 10 as a rookie, so that's pretty solid. Wilcox still out there doing damage. Okay. All right, now looking at best linebacker, and this guy is just a dog. Marvin Woolfolk, 8 seasons in the RFL, been here since season 1, tore it up in Chicago, has been tearing it up in Mexico City since he's been there. I think his first year, even with you, when he was halfway traded through, even though half of that season was with Chicago, he's still tied for the most sacks that season. And then here he is still, leading in this award, taking home the award.
2 years in a row.
Yeah, taking home the award here for best linebacker. So, man, shout out to Woolfolk. This guy is just an absolute dog. Then you had another defensive player here, Dwayne Cosson, 2nd. Tyler Cage, the rookie, finishing 4th and best linebacker. So, bright future for that guy as expected. Jocko Goliath, Jacob Reed Jr. here. A couple of names. Even Antoine Buck still in the mix there. Best defensive back, no question. Rashad Chamberlain led the conference in interceptions with 9 to tie the previous record last year. Of course, like I said, that got broken by the ARC players, a few of them, which was Brockers and Henry. But, man, this guy's interceptions, I would have to say, were the most crucial because he literally won a few games for the Explorers, and especially that last one to get them back into the playoffs. So, man, shout out to Rashad Chamberlain, man. The guy's just Absolute stud.
Let's see. Scroll down real quick. I want to see if this guy made it or not. Let's see. Is Reese Good? Yeah, I'm shocked that Reese Goodall isn't on there.
He was. He got knocked off. Yeah, he got knocked off. He was like at 7 or 8, but it was at a point where I don't think he was getting any interceptions like that, and other guys kept getting picks. So this award really kind of stems off of interceptions. Garrison Ash was just able to make it. He had like 2 picks his last game, stuff like that. So I think that's the reason he didn't make it in there. Alex Warrencola in there. Eric Straughter there finishing 4th. Shout out to him. Had his career high in interceptions this season with 7. Then we have best kicker of the year going to Jeff Eisen, generic kicker there for the Crusaders. We got Joaquin Gonzalez. That was a user player. Any other users in here? No. All right, and then for the MVP, which we already knew who it was, Reed Wagner, and he will take home the league MVP because the way it goes for the league, you get your conferences because we're splitting the separate files, but then we have a league MVP within this era, and Reed Wagner wins his first RFL league MVP. So shout out to Justin Jones, man, those Steamers over there. Coach Jones did his thing this year. Shout out to Reed Wagner, man. What a career it's been for this guy. All-time leading passer in RFL history. And he continues to dominate, continues to put up yards, and just now getting his first league MVP. Quite the storyline for him. Remember, he started out with Orlando Sentinels the first 2.5 seasons of the RFL when it first began. Got benched, got traded, and now here he is ever since he got traded, just being a dog for the Memphis Steamers. And congratulations to him on finally taking home a league MVP in the RFL. So that's it for the awards. We're going to go ahead now into the RFL playoff bracket. Is there anything you want to say about the awards, though, before I move on here for Forbes?
Just that, I again would have had Richardson at least in the top 3 here. Just what he did can't be replicated. I mean, I know all these other guys had great seasons and whatnot, but we will never see that again from a D tackle if I had to guess.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I can't even think of a defensive tackle. There was one I looked up that I feel like it's going to be right there with him, but I mean, to repeat 51 tackles for losses, though, with 23 sacks, I don't
and
know.
100 plus tackles.
100 plus tackles. Yeah, I don't know if that'll ever happen again. So I definitely agree with you. Reed Wagner, me personally, man, I don't know. That's hard. I still don't even know if I would have chose Reed Wagner over.
Just basically, the Steamers had the first and second best player in the league this year.
Yeah, by far. This is the reason why this team is dangerous, man. And guys didn't think so last year because they just dropped the ball. It just wasn't their year, right? And this year it all came together. We knew the talent's always been there, and it showed to its fullest potential, 100%. So, and shout out to Justin Jones and the Steamers, man. What a season! All right, I'm gonna go ahead and set this up though for the stats later on. I'll start in the NRC since starting the ARC. But now let's go ahead and get a look at the RFL Season 8 playoff picture, guys. This is what it is officially, and I cannot wait to see what's about to go down, y'all, because I mean, Season 8 has already been crazy in itself. We've had some instant classic legendary games, and I know this playoffs is going to be just as, if not better than what we've already seen this year in terms of hype and outcomes. There's a couple questions I have aligned with this forward before we go into it. I think really only one though, but outside of the teams that's already won a championship that's in here, so that would be the Bulldogs, the Huskies, the Red Dragons, the Celtic Tigers, the Toronto Thunderbirds, and the Columbus Explorers. What team do you think? I don't know. I'm having a voice issue here, but what team do you think has the best chance, or would you say would win a Relo Bowl that hasn't this year?
From the ARC, it would. I think the easy answer is the Voyagers. From the NRC, whoever wins that 3-6 matchup.
3-6. Yeah. That's I definitely agree with you on that. Yeah, the Voyagers haven't won that. Yeah, I don't see any other team here because we'll see how that Miners and Voyagers
I
go.
think the Elks had a great season. I think the Monarchs had a good enough season. Obviously, it's their first ever playoff appearance at a 7 seed, but I don't even if the Elks
Well,
win
I'm
in the
saying
first
like,
round,
well, I guess you
I don't see
can't
them
choose
getting
yourself because
past.
I know you're going to choose yourself. But like, if you
Well, then
couldn't,
it would be the Voyagers and
if you
Snowhawks.
couldn't choose yourself, what one team do you think, if you had to predict to win the Relo Bowl,
That
would
hasn't won it already.
that hasn't won it already that you think most likely would? So for you, it would be between the Voyagers
The
and the
Voyagers or
Snowhawks.
Snowhawks. And I'm trying to. It would probably have to be the Voyagers. I don't know if the Snowhawks win 3 games in a row against me, and then the Thunderbirds, and then the Steamers. Whereas, nothing against the Miners, but the Miners aren't one of those 3 teams. If they win, they play the Bulldogs, which is just as good. But then after that, you have the Huskies or CT, which I would rather play one of those 2 teams than the Steamers.
Yeah. Yeah, if I had to
So
choose a team that hasn't won a Relo Bowl, that would have a chance at doing it, it would be between who, like you said, whoever wins between you and the Snowhawks, the first round. But if I had to select, based off of what I know and what I put in the spreads now, I would choose you because at first I was like, okay, I do feel like the Snowhawks are going to come in the playoffs and bring some noise and probably go far, probably go to the Relo Bowl. But I'll talk more when we get into the games and the situation that has hindered them quite a bit, and why I would give it to you now at this point. So let's go ahead and dive into our final early playoff predictions on who we think would make the playoffs, who we think would go and win the Relo Bowl this year. All right, so let's start in the ARC. Miners and Voyagers first round game. I'm gonna go ahead and also bring up the spreads because I forgot I put that as well in the Discord. So let me get to that real fast. Then we could go ahead and continue.
Rohan, I do see you with the third time's a charm thing, but I'm gonna have to take the Voyagers. I hate to do it to done 3 years in a row, but we just talked about how the Voyagers are on this streak, how Glenn Hay just came back and won conference MVP. We could see some rookie magic. We've seen rookies go all the way before with Miles McCain. I wouldn't be surprised to see them win a game or two, but I'm taking the hot hand of the Voyagers in that matchup.
All right, and in the spreads, I do have the Voyagers as well. They will be on the road though, so take that into consideration, guys. I got the spread in favor of the Voyagers by a field goal or more. Definitely going to be a great game to watch. That game will be on Friday, guys. So look out for that. I think I'm gonna go in order since I don't have the dates on here. So let me just go
Okay.
in order of the games. Well, no, that would be too confusing. So I'm gonna just continue to do what I'm doing. Uh, so we both got the Voyagers advancing as a 17, which means they would automatically play the
The
London
Bulldog.
Bulldogs. All right, so now we move on to the second game down here to the left. The number 3 Huskies and the number 6 Red Dragons. I have I'm trying to find it. Okay, I have the Huskies winning by 4 more points.
I think when we did this matchup a couple weeks ago, I picked the Red Dragons, but that was before they went on a couple game slid. So I am gonna go with you and the Huskies in this matchup.
Okay, so the same there, which means the number 3 seed, or whoever wins this is going to play each other anyway. So I have the Red Dragons and the River Hogs and the Celtic Tigers playing off against each other, and that game would be on Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. I have the Celtic Tigers winning by 4 more points.
I'm also gonna have to take CT in this matchup. I feel like they're more, experienced in the playoffs. They're one of those teams who make it almost every year. I think the Riverhogs made it last year. It's like the 7 seed or something because the Bisons fell off real hard last year, so they got to play, and then they lost in the first round. But I think CT's just the better team.
All right, so everything's the same. So that means For the divisional round, we would have the Bulldogs and the Miners. Oh, excuse me, and the Voyagers.
Bulldogs and
And
Voyagers.
then we would have the Huskies
Huskies
and
and
the Celtic
CT.
Tigers. All right, so for that first game, Bulldogs, Voyagers, who you
Which is
got?
the ARC
ARC.
championship rematch.
Yeah, so that would be dope. Oh yeah,
Uh,
my spreads on which I. Oh yeah, I'm tripping. You're not there.
yeah, we're
Yeah, so yeah, I would take the Bulldogs though. I think they get their revenge.
I think I would also pick the Bulldogs in this matchup.
Okay, so we got the Bulldogs back to the ARC Championship. Then we got the Celtic Tigers and the Huskies. The Huskies beat the Celtic Tigers last time they played. This game is really tough. I feel like I would go with the Huskies because I feel like it's almost even, but the difference is the defense. I feel like the Husky. I don't think people talk about the Huskies defense enough, or understand that their defense is actually pretty solid, man. And I think that they have a better defense, in my opinion, than the Dublin Celtic Tigers. The offenses are just about even, but still the wide receiving power for the Huskies, I think, is still a little bit much. It's really going to depend on how Leonidas would perform in that game, and it kind of would be the same deal though for Trey Worsley. So in that regard, I feel like the Huskies would be able to edge it out.
Yeah, we're gonna pick the same. I'm picking the Huskies. I like one of the matchups before. I think the Huskies are just a little bit of a better team to me. They're just built better, like you said, a better defense. They're just slightly better in all these little certain areas. And I think that edges them out over CT. CT got to have their little special run with Dre's little send off, and they can wait a couple years before going back.
Yeah. So we're the same all the way through. ARC Championship, Huskies and Bulldogs. The Huskies beat the Bulldogs in the regular season. I think the Bulldogs win the rematch though and advance to represent the ARC in the championship.
Well, just to be different, I'm going to pick the Huskies.
Now, honestly, would you pick the Bulldogs though?
I think looking at both teams, as long as Timmy Merritt plays the way we know he can, he doesn't go out there and throw 4 picks for fun. The Bulldogs should win. But it's going to come down to Timmy Merritt.
Yeah, I definitely feel like still that's a winnable game for the Huskies. And like you said, it literally comes down because of how will Timmy Merritt plays. Because if he falters like he did last time he played them, then the Huskies definitely got that game for the most part in the bag. As great as their defense is, we saw what the Celtic Tigers were able to do, but I feel like the Huskies offense is even better than what the Celtic Tigers have. And for that's going to be tough for that defense to maintain them from being explosive. So that would be a great ARC conference championship game. But Bulldogs I got going. You got the Huskies, or are you actually going to go with the Bulldogs?
Yeah, well, I'll go with the Bulldogs.
Okay, so both of us got the Bulldogs, pretty much the same on we were the same all the way through on our predictions there. All right, now we get a look at the NRC side, and we have the Thunderbirds and the Monarchs. I've got the Thunderbirds here in the first round with their starters actually on the field winning by 6 or more points. It seems like something just happened. Okay.
You good?
Yeah, I'm back. And probably got a double echo, so let me go ahead and close that. Yeah, had
you do have the spreads for this though.
Yeah, and I got the Thunderbirds by 6 or more points, and usually you're like, well, 6 points, this team is great, should blow them out. They could, but also at the same time, I know how the T-Birds play ball. Like they don't have to win by a lot, so I just kept it at 7, at 6 or more points, for them to advance.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest, like I said, I think Ramos had a great rookie season as a coach, got his team to the playoffs and everything. But I feel like this is the most lopsided matchup of the wild card with these two teams playing. I think the Thunderbirds are just a different tier of team than what the Monarchs are. And I think if the Monarchs want to have any shot of winning, it's going to have to be through their running back, Donovan Rhodes. I don't expect Preston Schroeder to just throw for 500 yards on this T-Birds secondary. But I do have the Thunderbirds winning this.
All right, second game, your game. Of course, you're going to go with you.
Yeah.
And I have the spreads now going in your favor. And just to reiterate on what I was talking about earlier, I would have chose the Portland Snowhawks, but the Snowhawks suffered a few injuries this week during practice, and they are going to be without their top wide receiver in Karis Curry, which is going to hurt big time against this Mexico City defense. And then also they're missing an offensive lineman, their center.
No, they're missing
tackle.
Their tackle.
Yeah, the
Blair
tackle.
Hart.
So, and it's their center, right, that's moving out there to
Yeah, the
tackle.
center moved to tackle.
Yeah, so with that move, I mean, that's a good adjustment, I would have to say. They probably
You're
still
welcome,
could hold
Mitchie.
up. They probably could still hold up on the line a little bit with that move, but without Karis Curry, that's a big blow, man. That is a huge blow. And for me, especially with them having to play on the road, I just feel like that's going to really hurt their offense from getting going. And I can see Joseph Gidley struggling with not really being able to pass the ball down the field effectively against the secondary. We know 2-7 over there on your side is a dog. So that already takes away one half of the field. And the only way the Snowhawks win is if these wide receivers step up. And that's just going to be tough to do. How about you talk more about your matchup? Like, what do you expect out of this game? Thoughts on it? Go ahead and talk about it.
Well, I think what it's really going to come down to is him moving Case Kern over to tackle. That is the Marvin Woolfolk matchup.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how that's now. Case Kern isn't bad by any means, but Blair Harden was his highest overall offensive lineman and was a superstar. I believe Case Kern's only star, so he's losing those abilities, and I think he's losing 2 or 3 in pass blocking as a tackle compared to when he was as a center. So I mean that's going to be key. And then, obviously, like you just said with his receivers, like you brought up before, I've been Patreoning my other corner, Chris Randolph, who's up to an 85 now, and we'll have a Patreon before this game, the last one of the season. And so it'll be on his receivers and was it Dwight Smelter and what's the other one? I can't think of the name. It's another
Jr.
Daryl Jarrett. Yeah, it's going to be up to those two. I believe he has Ryan LeClavier in the slot.
Mm-hmm.
So those are going to be the 3 full-time receivers.
Yeah, they're going to step up big.
And we might see Pecan out there, but you saw what we did to Pecan last time we stepped on the field.
Not only that, man, that last game you guys had was a banger. 25-20. It could have even gone the other way had somehow Pecan been able to come with that catch, but no sir.
Without it.
Yeah. So this is going to be quite the game to watch. Like I said, this is the biggest game of the first round, in my opinion. And that's why I have it as the last game for the wild card round. And like I said, I have you guys winning by 4 or more points. Okay, moving on to the next game. This is going to be the first game of the playoffs, guys. Storyline off rip. Latavian Worrell facing off against his former team in the playoffs. What about this storyline, man? Able to win the division for the Elks. 37 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, having a remarkable season, has the home field advantage, and he's taking on the Columbus Explorers. I do have the Columbus Explorers winning by a touchdown or more, though. They're just a better all-around team. But I would love to see, how crazy would it be if, even if they were to put up just a really good fight, which usually they do, because every time the Explorers have played the Elks, the games have been close. So that's something to look out for. But I do think that the Elks, can pose a bit of a threat if Daryl Johnson is not on his day leading the offense down the field in terms of scoring points, because he can lead the offense down the field, but the issue with him this season has really become when he gets rattled, stalling out drives, and not being able to put up 7, settling for field goals and things like that, which has resulted in the 4 losses in which they've gotten on the season.
Yeah, man. Just bringing up their game last year. I mean, I think that's one of the league's best moments was that Daryl Johnson 60-yard scramble for a touchdown to win the game. They always have close games, great games. Everyone thought the Elks were going to ruin their perfect season last year. I will start by saying I do have the Explorers winning this game. It is going to come down to Daryl Johnson if he's on or off. If they're off, I think the Elks have a great chance to win it, especially if they play through Darius Martin, who just had almost 1,800 yards. And that's how the Elks are going to win this is give the ball to Martin and let it work. We were just talking about how Rashad Chamberlain ends games, so I don't expect Latavian Worrell to go crazy. But if we see what was it? It wasn't against the Crusaders. I feel like it was the game before where we saw Martin go off for 250 yards.
Yeah. And that's another thing too, even you talk about it, is with Worrell, the guy has been super careful with the football, which is why they've won.
Yeah.
I mean, like literally watching, if you go back and watch all of his games, it's like he just makes the right reads almost all the time. And that's why his touchdown to interception ratio is so good. So that's going to be interesting. Like, he's got some pretty good wide receivers too out there too, that could create some separation at times. They're going to be careful with the football. If they establish that run game, that's really going to hurt the Explorers.
I mean, speaking of their weapons, though, I think their best receiving weapon is Mason Dunn, the tight end.
At tight end. And then on top of that, well, I wouldn't say he definitely is going to be a threat because I don't feel like really keep up with him like that. But DeAndre Mail's still a dog, and Roy Kincaid is a young
former
beast as
rookie
well.
of the year.
Yeah, so that's some serious weapons to look out for, to be honest. Especially with the patience and decision making of Latavian Worrell. So we'll have to see, what comes of that. But yeah, I got the Explorers winning there. So we're the same across the board here. So that would mean that the Thunderbirds would play the Diablos, and the Steamers would play the Explorers. So let's go with the Steamers and Explorers game first. Steamers got beat by the Explorers 31-28 in the regular season when they played. And for the divisional round, I would say that the Steamers find a way to get it done. I think they find a way to get it done the second time around. They got the home field advantage. And yeah, they advanced to the NRC championship. What is your thoughts?
I'm the same as you. You don't win MVP, defense play of the year, and offensive player of the year in the same team without winning at least one playoff game, right?
Yeah.
So I would take the Steamers.
But that's tough, man. This is one of the reasons why, having the number one seed can be a detriment at
that
times.
bye week.
Yeah, you get that bye week and you come back in, and then like we've seen one of the most memorable teams to think about was the Celtic Tigers that year, where they went 15-1 back in season 5, and first round bounced out of there. We've seen it happen with a couple teams, and that's where it can get a little bit scary, especially when you got a tough opponent that you start off with. But I do feel like the Steamers get it done, though. And the reason why is just like Kyle talked about earlier as to why the Explorers can lose to the Elks game. Because if they do manage to get it together with the Elks, consistency against the Steamers is going to be hard to find, because I feel like Deshaun Richardson is going to cause enough ruckus and force him to throw the ball in places where, it has cost some games already this season. So I'm going with the Steamers as well. And then, of course, you're going to go with yourself there in that game. But me personally, of course, I'm going with the Thunderbirds. So that's the first time we have a difference in opinion. So we'll flip each other's suggestions then. So now it would be I get to predict if it was the Steamers and the Diablos. If they played each other, I got the Steamers. I think the Steamers get it done. And then for you, it would be the Thunderbirds and the Steamers.
Mm-hmm. And they also played each other, and I think the Steamers won that game.
Yeah, and see, this is the interesting part too about that. If that happens, is they were heavily injured when they played the Steamers.
Yeah, and I think I would take the Thunderbirds in that matchup because they were heavily injured in that matchup, and yeah, just I don't know, having to play the Explorers and the Thunderbirds back to back is hard for any team.
Yeah,
especially after having a week off.
Yeah. So we both got the Bulldogs representing the ARC. For me, I chose, between your games, Steamers, I chose to advance, and yours would be the Thunderbirds. Okay, so if it was the Thunderbirds and the Bulldogs in the Relo Bowl, who you got?
The Thunderbirds or the Bulldogs? I think I would take the Thunderbirds. I kind of had the same reasoning as last time. If the Bulldogs get to this point, it means Timmy Merritt's been been playing like crazy. And this will probably be the best defense that anyone on the ARC would have to play getting to this point. I'm not sure Timmy Merritt's consistent enough to ball out for a third time against a Thunderbirds defense.
Yeah.
So I think I would take the Thunderbirds.
All right, and for me, it would be the Steamers and the Bulldogs, which would be fire. Man, and that I have to think more on this, to be honest, man. But I think I would go with the Steamers because I don't see Reed Wagner faltering as much as Timmy Merritt, as you talked about.
I like how every time we talk about the Bulldogs, it's Timmy Merritt.
It comes down to Timmy, man. It really does, you know. So yeah, I do think the Bulldogs are going to pose a threat to anybody in the NRC, though. Their defense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but that offense, and not only that, it's just the receivers as well. They got good receivers, but they're coverable. You know, they can get pressure back there to Timmy Merritt. And with the defenses in which the NRC has with their top 4 heavy teams, they can cover those guys and make life difficult, and they can stop the run. So they can kind of do the same against their offense, but like I said, I can see Merritt turning the ball over more often. So, yeah, I got the Steamers winning it. You got the Thunderbirds winning it. And that's our final predictions there. Well, of course, you would have yourself if you had to choose. So,
of course.
Yeah, that's the bracket early predictions. Last time we're gonna do it, guys. Now we're just gonna see it from here on out play itself out, man. So that's gonna be interesting. Did I even? Oh yeah, I didn't say the spreads because of course once again we aren't in.
We're not out yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so this is what we're gonna do now. We're gonna go ahead now get a look at let me see. I'm gonna press something real fast, guys.
What happened?
Okay, yeah. So overall season recap. I had to go back there and look at it real fast because I lost my sheet that I was looking at. But let's go ahead and get a look at stat leaders in the overall. First of all, let's go ahead and get a look at the divisions. How about that? How the division shaped out. And I wish we had done something where we chose who would. I think we did do that in the first podcast this season, like ranked who would finish where in the divisions and see how they stack up. But I'm in the NRC right now, and here we go. Let's go ahead and get a look at the NRC in these divisions. So in the NRC North, the Toronto Thunderbirds coming out on top, 14-3 on the season. The Columbus Explorers making it in for the 7th consecutive year, 13-4. Chicago Tigers, man, interesting story. We're going to do it after we go through the rest of the standings, but they did not make the playoffs. 12-5 on the year. And then as for the Barons, they were able to have a winning season after an impressive win over the Chicago Tigers in their last game. 9-8 they finished the year. In the NRC South, we have the Diablos, of course, running it as champs, 14-3. Wizards 11-6 on the year at 2. Desperados 9-8 at 3, and then the Lancers at 4, 7-10 on the year. NRC East, Steamers winning it, best record overall in the RFL, 15-2. Second place came the Monarchs, making their first ever RFL playoff appearance with a 12-5 record. Gunners able to finish with a winning season overall wise, RFL wise. They were 4-8, but 9-8 on the season. And the Shamrocks, they are officially the number 1 overall pick, right, Forbes?
Yeah, so I mean, I know the top 5 off my head. I think.
Okay.
It'll be Shamrocks at 1, Lancers at 2.
Okay, we'll get more into that. I guess after we go through the rest here. But 6-11, the Shamrocks finished the season off. Tough schedule for them. And then the West won by the Elks, 13-4. They finished the year. Snowhawks started off rough, but came roaring back, trying to take the division away from the Elks, but they held on. 12-5. Then the Crusaders at 3 with a 10-7 record, and the Condors finishing last in the West with the same record there. Made the playoffs last year, couldn't get it done this year. All right, so this is the interesting thing here that I wanted to talk about is Forbes we had a Discord exclusive for guys who weren't part of the Discord, and NFL games, we said Forbes said was going to play a role because he looked into NFL tiebreakers, and which should be implemented within the game. And you could see here that it was, but they did not choose the Tigers to get in because all these teams got it. And then look, they have the Tigers ranked higher than the Monarchs and the Snowhawks, but they did not make the playoffs. Now, this is one thing I talked to you about, Forbes. I know that by rule, or with what you read, that they would select the Tigers, but I feel like I don't know why they would put all this in the game and it not work, especially if they put them here and they not select them. I feel like there's probably something, because I don't think this has ever happened in the NFL, but if these teams were already locked up here and one had the head-to-head, I think that was the reason as to why the Tigers didn't get in, because the Snowhawks are higher than the Monarchs. And since they had the head-to-head with a tie, I think there's something where this potentially would probably happen in real life. But it does suck to still have a better ranking and not get in. But
Yeah.
what's your thoughts on the ordeal?
Well, like I've been saying, the like Rambo's saying, we beat the Tigers. If you go look at the NFL tiebreakers, head to head does not matter when there's a third team involved. The Snowhawks did not play the Tigers or Monarchs, so the head to head thing doesn't count, and you continue on to the next tiebreakers. Now, Ramos might be right that the game, maybe the game is just lazy, and the Tigers were third in their division. They said you're not gonna make it. But to that, if you go back to last year, the Lancers and Wizards both made the playoffs last year at 10-7. The Wizards were third in their division, so I'm not sure about that either.
That's why I feel like there's that head-to-head had something to do with it. I think that definitely, like, somehow that had something to do with it. And like I said,
It might have in Madden, but in
in real life, I don't even think this ever happened in real life, though. So, like, is this something they would have did in real life? We don't know. But I understand it, but I still wouldn't have put the Tigers here at 7 if you weren't going to throw them. That's kind of disrespectful. Be like, hey, you were better than these teams in the standings, but you're not going. So that's a heartbreaker, man. Let's get hashtag Stein in the chat, man. Shout out to him having a great season with the Chicago Tigers, though, man. Heartbreaking way to go out, especially with how the standings finished out here.
Can you scroll up real quick, buddy?
Where do you want me to scroll to?
Just to see 3 and 4.
Okay.
And then I gotta wait for it because I gotta watch the YouTube to see it. Yeah. Okay. So see if you look at the Thunderbirds and Diablos. So Jameson, it's not based on points for, because I scored 70 more points than the Thunderbirds, and yet I'm still one below them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the Tigers have.
Don't they go points against? I thought they go points.
Well, if you did points against, the Snowhawks and Tigers should be flipped. So it has nothing to do with the points.
Okay.
No, the points for tiebreaker is like the 9th tiebreaker.
Yeah. But wouldn't they put against first before 4? That's what
even either one of those, they're still like the 9th and 10th tiebreakers. Mm-hmm. The Tigers would have won strength of victory, which is the 4th tiebreaker, and would have won the strength of schedule, which is the 5th tiebreaker. They would have won the tiebreakers twice before the Snowhawks won the first one. So I mean, I don't have an explanation for it out of everything I've read and looked at and done.
I mean, off your calculations, I mean, you were right, in terms of what the ranking would be. But I do feel like since they had all those in the game, that there's a reason why, like, I don't see them just saying, like, well, the winning team did this. That would just generate itself. I feel like that's why I kind of feel like this is something that probably would happen in this situation, because it hasn't happened in the NFL. You know what I'm saying? I'm guessing this is what they would probably
do. The NFL's been up and going for 50.
Yeah, but I mean, with the auto win situations and all those tiebreakers and nuances, I don't know about that. You probably have to look that up.
ESJ, the Monarchs only had 4 home wins, so it's not based off of home wins.
Yeah, I think the head-to-head literally came into effect, guys, in this game. That's the only thing that would make sense as to why the Tigers would not get in. It had to be the head-to-head.
I
because
mean, yeah, that might have been probably what Madden decided, but just sucks for Stein.
yeah, that's a heartbreaker, man. But I'm gonna go ahead and go into the ARC side. Um, I don't even know why well, I can go ahead go to the ARC. So we'll get a look at those standings real fast, and then we'll go right into the stats. Just showing you guys the end of the year stuff for guys who who aren't in the Discord, who want to see this
Who is
stuff.
the worst team in the RFL all year? The worst record. I wouldn't say the Shamrocks are the worst team, but the worst record was the Shamrocks. So we'll be picking number one.
Yeah,
I don't know if we have a worst team.
Pioneers at this point probably at the bottom now. Now that they don't got Trey Allen balling.
I
They
don't know.
got
I kind of want to. I mean, if we're talking about the worst team, like in terms of like play, I almost want to say the Sentinels.
this year. Yeah, they did pretty bad, but yeah.
I could see. Oh no, it would have to be the Lancers. It has to be the
Yeah,
Lancers.
Lancers. Yeah, I always
It
forget about that.
has to be
Yeah,
the
Lancers for
Lancers.
sure. Um,
It has to be the Lancers.
they actually started playing better with
Once you bench
Fontanez.
Mason,
Yeah, Mason just started wilding out. Just he had some big games, but he just was throwing way too many picks.
yep.
And that's what killed him. Then the ARC North Huskies, they haven't won this division since they won the championship back in season 4. So it's been 4 long years that they've finally gone back to the dance. 13-4 record they finished with. The Bulls 11-6 and second place in the North. Aviators 11-6 and third, and then Chicago Cougars, man, very upsetting season here for this franchise. 8-9. I have to go back myself. I think they did have losing seasons before, but if not, this is their first losing season. I'll have to go look
I
into.
can't believe you, Pat.
Huh?
Pat said maybe Rozier was right about Trey Mason, but even if he was, it doesn't mean you played the
Not
guy
at
he
that
played.
time. Yeah, no. But yeah, Miners, they for a third consecutive year win the South, even with Miles McCain and trading away AJ Pestock and Chum Lee, and they still finished the year 13-4. And then the rest of the guys, same record, 10-7. South still was very competitive this year, but Miners just able to separate there towards the end. 10-7, Dreadnoughts in second place, Armadillos in third place at 10-7. The Bisons finished last at 10-7. In the ARC East, Bulldogs winning it for a second consecutive year, 14-3. Last game of the season, able to best the Celtic Tigers, who fall a game short at 13-4. And the London Black Knights with the shock for the most part of the season, 11-6 on the year. And then you had the Sentinels, a shocking season as well for the worst, 8-9 losing season as well. So that's tough. That's tough right there. Then looking at the West, Riverhogs winning the division here. Last year it was the Voyagers. So shout out to Coach Q Machiavelli, his first year in the RFL as a coach, winning the division in a 3-way tie record-wise. 12-5 were the Red Dragons and the Voyagers. So I mean, he was able to withstand the fire, help pull his team through, and win the West. And then we had the Pioneers finishing with a losing season at 8-9. So that's it for the divisions. Let's go ahead and get a look into the stats now. And we're just going to look at each conference, just at the top five stat leaders. All right, so in passing, Justin Jones leading the ARC. As the passing leader, 5,254 yards. Timmy Merritt had 5,197 yards. And then Glenn Hay, one of the three at 3 with 5,169 yards passing to be in the top 3 right there. Holden Wolf finishing 4th with 4,954 yards. And then at number 5, Owen Jack, 4,816 yards passing. Of course, if you want to look at the rest of these, we have a Neon Sports link for you guys to check out, but just for video sake, so guys can see this while we're going through it, I'm gonna just go through the top 5 in each leading stat category. So that's the top 5 passers and yards in the ARC. Most touchdowns in the ARC top 5. We got Glenn Hay with 40. At number 2, Anthony Savoy with 39. Jacob McCall, top 3 right there, 36. Timmy Merritt at 4, 35. And then at 5 is Holden Wolf with 34. And let's go ahead and see who threw the least amount of interceptions as a starting quarterback. Yeah, let's go from the top then. Who threw the most, and then we'll see who got the least there as a starter at the bottom. But Chumlee leading the RFL in interceptions as a whole on both sides. 24 interceptions to 22 interceptions to 22 touchdowns. That was rough. A rough year there with the Armadillos. Very tough second half stretch for him. Jacob McCall got up there with picks with 22. Then we had Geno Gannon. Very rough year for Gannon here. 20 interceptions. And then we had Devin Wade with 18. And then at 5, well, it's pretty much a tie here. 15 between Merritt, Wilkins, Washington, and McCain for top 5 and interception amounts. Looking at who started with the least amount as an all-around starter. I mean, Javier Santana didn't play all year, but Justin Jones threw the least amount of interceptions in the ARC as a starting quarterback all year with just 8 to 31 touchdowns. So that's a great thing right there. McBride was close, but he didn't throw a lot of touchdowns. I mean, 17 touchdowns. I was shocked at looking at that.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, 17 passing touchdowns this year, man. So that's crazy.
Must have been defense.
Yeah, so those are the lowest guy, really, Justin Jones. I'm just go with whoever the lowest guy. Not going to look at the rest. You want to look at the totals there, you go ahead and check that up. Let's go look at who's got the highest completion percentage out of starting quarterbacks. Top 5, got Glenn Hay at 73. Timmy Merritt, along with Anthony Savoy at second and third. Well, tie for second with 70. Geno Gannon 4th with 69. And a tie also with Wade there. I think I'm going to just look at who has the highest, man, because a lot of these are going to be tied. Let's look at yards. No yards per game. QBR, the best QBR. Glenn Hay, 106.3. First place. Justin Jones, 102.7. Second. Timmy Merritt, 102.6. Not a starter. 100.4 for Holden Wolf. Owen Jack, 98.7. And then for top 5 QBRs for starting quarterbacks, 98.6 for Marquise Washington. All right, let's see who has the most sacked quarterback this year. Geno Gannon. I mean, he was always tops there and getting sacked. 48 times he was sacked this season. Let's see who was the least sacked quarterback out of starters. DWJ. Well, that's kind of shocking, man. The least sacked quarterback and yet a losing season. 34 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. That's kind of different. All 17 games he played. So he only got average getting sacked 1 time a game, which is excellent. And just still couldn't really get that offense going consistently. Now, that's interesting. All right, looking in the rushing category, leading top 5 rushers, Kingston Kinney, 1,529 rushing yards. Then at second place, Trey Worsley, 1,341. DJ Scott, third, 1,286. Leonidas, 1,282. And then Dre Shivers, 1,275. So you had the best yard per carry average as a starting running back. I have to go down here a bit. Kingston Kinney, 4.7. It's top right there. Then DJ Scott, 4.5. David Jones, a 4.5. Carlos Berry, a 4.4. And then Trey Worsley, a 4.4. So that's your top 5 yard per carry average running backs in the ARC. Rushing touchdowns. You had Carlos Berry, the most in the conference with 15 rushing touchdowns, and a lot of guys with 11 here, which is Kadron Lusk, Trey Worsley, Kingston Kinney, David Jones, Corey Leonidas, and Matt Wheaton. Who averaged the most per game? Kingston Kinney averaged 89.9 yards per game. So he was a top guy in that category. I'm gonna just go look at the top there. Who fumbled the most as a running back?
Probably
Cam
have a bunch of
Perkins.
quarterbacks up top.
Yeah, Cam Perkins had 3 fumbles. Langford Cloud 3 fumbles. Jay Morris 3 fumbles. And I guess we'll go there because there's a lot of guys that's going to have 2s. Who broke the most tackles in the RFL this season? DJ Scott, rightfully so. We know what type of back he is. One of the best power backs in the RFL. 89 broken tackles this year. Followed up with Kingston Kinney with 72. Andre Tomlinson had 71. Trey Worsley 71. And then Jay Morris, man. He was breaking quite a bit of tackles, man, this year, especially in the first half. Cooled off the second half, but still a solid year for him with 70. Yards after contact, leading in the ARC. Of course, Kingston Kinney, 521. DJ Scott wasn't too far off. Well, about a good almost 30 yards, but 494 for him. Same total for Matt Wheaton. Carlos Berry had 469, and then Trey Worsley with 429. And that's it for the top 5 rushing categories. All right, wide receivers. Keith Guyton breaking the all-time record for the most receiving yards in a single season with 1,847. Number 1 there. Then you had Maurice Darman at 2, 1,479. Matt Niani, 1,445. Cam Jones, who was just pretty much the entire Dreadnoughts offense this year, 1,426. Oh. And then you had Contavious Henderson finishing at top 5. And at 5 with exactly 1,400 receiving yards. We'll look at the most highest average per game. Keith Guyton averaged 108.6 yards per game this year with number 1 spot there. Then you had Sam M. Gusto. Man, if this guy didn't get injured and lose those 3 games, Forbes, I think he would have been up there, at least at 1,600, something like that. But
yeah, I mean, on pace to have more than Darman.
Yeah.
And they on it.
Yeah, that's crazy. 87.1 yard average per game. 87 on the dot for Maurice Darman. Matt Niani, 85. And then Cam Jones, 83.9. Most receiving touchdowns. Keith Guyton, 16 this year, leading all wide receivers in that category as well. So he got the triple crown. Most yards, most touchdowns, and most receptions. Forgot to talk about that. Top 5 in receptions. Let's look at that real fast since we passed that. 135 for Keith Guyton. Then you had 111 for Darman. 106 for Sylvester Leach. Tyrese Maxwell, 103. And then Matt Niani with 101, along with Jackson Hunter, who had a phenomenal year with the Houston Voyagers this year. Back to the touchdowns. Number 1 spot, Keith Guyton, 16. Cam Jones, 15. Matt Niani, 14, and then Rob Schultz out here with 13 touchdowns, along with Obey Kid in the conference for the top 5. Most yards after the catch for a wide receiver, I'll say here, but most yards total. Shout out to Langford Cloud. This guy was a dog for the Black Knights offense. It's definitely making an impact in the receiving game. But for wide receivers, 425 yards. Keith Guyton had the most. Then we had Contavious Henderson at 2nd with 393. Next wide receiver is Buck Ulbrich here, 383. Obey Kid, 370. And then the last for top 5, Armand Holland with 358 yards after the catch. We're not going to look at the longest because that doesn't really matter. Well, let's see who had the longest catch. Rob Schultz had a 93-yard touchdown this year. And blocking-wise, we're not going to look at that stuff. Don't keep track of pancakes. All right, tackles. Top 5 tacklers in the RFL. We just go off the totals because way too many assists and hadn't when it's played out the way we play it. But 179 total tackles to lead the ARC conference. Reed Holmberg does this just about every year. Jack Brown's got 178. Brady Knight for the Cougars, 177. Bobby Boucher, 176. And at number 5, Matt Reynolds with 172. Most tackles for loss in the ARC. Drew Brewer, 38 tackles for loss. That tied the previous record from last year. You had Carter Delahart with 33 at second. Jermaine Taylor, look at this. This is why this Bulldogs defense is crazy. He's third, top three, with 31 tackles for loss. Charles Raymond, the old vet, still killing it with 29. And then Jason Henderson was just traded from the Explorers over here with the Voyagers with 29 on the year.
Hey, if I'm not wrong, DeJuan Church is also a Voyager, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
So the Voyagers have 3 of the top 6?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, so that goes to show you how nasty their line is. All right, now looking at sack leaders. Carter Delahart led the RFL in sacks with 23. He had Drew Brewer with 21 and a half this year. I said 21 earlier, but add the half to it. Charles Raymond at third with 17 and a half. 17 sacks for Wendell Damache for the Sentinels, and Alumbi Ezzy. I think that's how you say it, because I looked up how you say it now. It's Ezzy. But yeah, like you said, Forbes, big contribution to the defense, up there top 5 in sacks in the conference. Interceptions, record breaker. Le'Veon Henry with 11. The record used to be 9, and Parker Brocker's passing that with 10. He had Lynn Mayberry with 9, Shaquille Tiller with 9, and Trey Sinclair with 9. That's the top 5. Well, you can include Javonte Gibson as well. He got 9 as well. Looking at interception yards. Okay, forced fumble. Who's forced the most fumbles this year? Roland Carter forced 3. Jack Brown did as well. Avante Celestin, Wendell Damache, and Reed Holmberg. That's the top 5 right there in forced fumbles. All with 3. Now looking at who had the most defensive touchdowns. Le'Veon Henry with 4 defensive touchdowns. You had Trey Sinclair with 3, as well as Shaquille Tiller and Javonte Gibson. And then you had a lot of 2s here. All right, kicking wise, let's see who made we can see the longest. I don't think we can see. They don't have a long on here.
No, it just shows like how much they made from 50 plus to that and the other.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, field goal long right next to it.
Okay, there you go. Okay, who kicked the longest field goal? 62
Oh yeah, that
yarder.
Bulls.
Oh yeah, he did knock that
Yeah.
down in the RFL game too.
Yep.
Shout out to him. 60-yarder for Tyrus Wiley. Jerome Davis, 58. These are the strongest legs in the RFL for real. Max Hayes, he's new, but he kicked a 58-yarder. R.T. Payne, seen him around, 58. Punts, I don't think there's anything really to go over.
No, it just showed the average, really.
Yeah. All right, kick returns. Who had the most kick return yards? Brian Rucker, the rookie from South Carolina College Series. Okay. Who had the best average though? That actually returned kicks. He didn't return every game though.
No, he only had 10 total returns.
Yeah.
He had a touchdown with it though.
Yeah, he did. I guess we'll skip over that because that's a little bit too much to go through. But kick return touchdowns, Corey and Brown, 2 of them. And then you had
Are they both in RFL games?
I think one of them was in the RFL game. I'm not sure if both were. Kingston Kinney had a kick return touchdown. No, that was in the RFL game. Connor Jamison, his return was in the RFL game. And Cam Perkins was in the RFL game as well. 98-yarder for Perk, 100-yarder for...
Have you decided who's going to be the returners for the Pro Bowl yet?
It's whoever got the touchdown, and that's actually played all season.
So Brown?
Yeah, if he got both of those returns for touchdowns in RFL games, then it's going to be him. But
I think Jameson has an argument for it.
Yeah, if not, then well, see, that's tough too because even Brown has a better average than he does with less returns. And he missed the game. Yeah, so we'll see.
It'll be one of those 2.
Yeah, okay. Punt returns. Let's just look at touchdowns. No punt return touchdowns this year in the ARC. Had the longest return. 29 by Jameson. So you could get him that punt return. What's his average? 8?
Clyde he's second in that.
Yeah, he's really first because Clyde Mabry didn't play until the end. So
Yeah, it could
if
be
so
what
that's it
Jameson at
right
punt
there. The
returner
Pro
and
Bowl is
Brown
already
at kick
selected. Yeah, we're gonna have Brown at kick return, and then the punt returner is gonna be Connor Jameson. So welcome
return.
to your first Pro Bowl, Connor. And I think that's it for the stats in the ARC. So we'll go ahead to the NRC side, guys.
Yeah, that's how we pick all our Pro Bowlers. We just decide them just like that.
See, a punt return is really not. Yeah, I mean, and there could have been some really good returns this year for touchdowns, but a lot of guys were calling fair catch when they had all this space.
Or just running straight down the middle as soon as they get it.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you, we would have had quite a bit of punt returns for touchdowns if guys weren't doing that. Like they were calling the fair catch a little bit too early. We would at least have about 5 of them things. I'm not gonna lie.
Geez, Pat, you can wait. All right, we'll get to the NRC already.
All right, NRC. Top 5 passing yards. Of course, Reed Wagner led all players in passing yards this year. He's the only 5,000-yard passer in the NRC conference with 5,661 yards. Absolute beast. Then Lane Kearney, man, 4,925 at second. Joseph Gidley, 4,834 at third. Preston Schrader, 4,806 fourth. And top 5, Daryl Johnson able to make it there with 4,732.
Yeah, that's the whole reason I benched Kearney that last game. He wasn't going to catch Reed Wagner.
Yeah. And looking at the passing touchdowns, it's a tie for the most this season. Wagner and Wakefield with 43 touchdown passes this year. So that's amazing. I mean, these guys continuously have like the top touchdowns each year in the RFL, though.
Yeah.
Then we have Lane Kearney, 38 at 3. Latavian Worrell, 37. They're at 4. And then Daryl Johnson at 5 with 36. Most interceptions, Ben Wakefield had a lot of touchdowns. He throw some picks too. Led the conference in those picks, in that department with interceptions with 18. I say he had a lot of picks. He had a lot of touchdowns. He's still a lot of picks too. But Joseph Gidley there at second with 16, along with Chase McCoy and Preston Schrader. So that's your 2, 3, and 4. And then number 5, and this would have probably been a record breaker right here if he played all season. Trey Mason got benched, but we'll move on to the next one since he didn't play all year, and it's a 2-way tie at 14 with Kyle Bain and LC3. Who threw the least amount of interceptions in the RFL as a starter?
I want to say it was Reed Wagner.
Kai Cash and Worrell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Kai Cash and Worrell. Reed Wagner ended up with 9.
Okay.
And so 7. And I think we'll have to look in actual RFL play who won between those, but I'm not going to do that here on the podcast. Okay, so then top
and then it's the
completion
thing,
percentage.
dude. I want to like of DJ's 8 picks, 4 of them came against the Tigers.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And another thing too is Daryl, that game he had against the Shamrocks didn't save. I think he threw 3 picks in there.
Like 3.
Yeah. So he got saved off of that one. Reed Wagner, the highest completion percentage out of all starters in the RFL. He had 77 on the year, highly accurate. Jabri Jackson, like I said, was still a cannon, man. 73, second place tied along with, okay, never mind, not tied because he didn't start all year. Preston Schrader had 72% at 3, at 4, 71% with Chase McCoy and LC3, and Lane Kearney at 71s. So that's your top 5 and 6 guys. Top QBRs for starting quarterbacks. Reed Wagner, 115.9.
Hey, man, don't just skip over my boy George McCaffrey like that. You see him up there.
Yeah, he didn't play all 17 games. But, yeah, 115.9 QBR from Reed Wagner. Then we had a 113.4 from Lane Kearney. 110.6 from Latavian Worrell. Daryl Johnson at a 109.3, and then Jabri Jackson at 5 with 108.2. All right, this light keeps coming on. Who had the longest touchdown pass this year? Lane Kearney, 93. Okay. All right. Who was the most sacked quarterback? Al Bain, 64 sacks on the season. A lot of guys that, like I said, this year, a lot of quarterbacks was getting rid of the ball, man. Because these totals compared to like previous years of Madden that we were on, used to be like up there. But yeah, so he was the most sacked quarterback in the entire league with 64.
Yeah.
And then the least sacked quarterback is LC3 with 18. 18 sacks. Okay, then we get a look at rushing. Leading top 5 in rushing yards in the RFL. Darius Martin led the entire RFL in rushing yards, 1,758. In second place, Madison Axel, 1,563. Kenny Steele, 1,482. Tavion Hall, even though he only saw the end zone 4 times this season, 1,456.
His yards per carry is crazy too.
It is. Dude
I don't
was
know
going
why.
in. He just didn't score. Like, well, it's because of the style of offense. I moved him more so into like a read option, which did work out for the Desperados because they became more difficult to beat and moving on offense once Kyle Bain got those legs moving. But it did take away from the times in which the yards and the touchdowns of Tavion Hall. Tavion Hall could have probably broke over 2,000 this year if he was the focal point. But
they just didn't give him the ball enough.
Yeah, just hit him up with the read option with Bain. Bain had a great year. He led all quarterbacks in rushing yards this year with over 500. And then at top 5 in rushing yards, you had Jacob McDonald with 1,347. Highest yard per carry average for a starting running back, probably going to be Tavion Hall.
Yeah, that 5.5.
Yeah, 5.5. That leads all running backs this season. So guy was getting it done. He just, couldn't find the end zone. 4.9, second place. That's the second highest with Darius Martin. Kenny Steele, 4.7, along with Cornell Mickens. And the 5th running back would be Madison Axel, 4.6. Marshall had a 4.5. He was right there. Rushing touchdowns. They had Cornell Mickens leading all running backs this year in rushing touchdowns with 17. Madison Axel there with 15. Ronnie Nickens, 14. Atagwe, 14. And then at number 5, rushing touchdowns, Kenny Steele with 13. Let's not mention Amir Williams there with 12 on the year. Great year for him. Average yards per game rushing. Darius Martin, the only back to average 100 yards with 103.4. So he was killing. Madison Axel, 91.9. Kenny Steele, 87.2. Tavion Hall, 85.6. And Marcus Knight, 82.3. Top 5. Who had the most fumbles? Jacob McDonald, 5 fumbles this year. Then we had quite a bit of guys with 4. Oh, that's not running backs. D'Amico Brewer had 4 fumbles, and he didn't. It
was a bad year for him.
Yeah, it was a bad rookie. It's a tough rookie year for him, man. Hopefully next year will be better. I think it will be better, but this was.
It better be.
Yeah, it was a rough rookie year. Marlon Marshall, man, talk about a guy balling after his rookie year. 1,285 yards on the season. 4 fumbles, though. He's got to tone those fumbles down. 5 touchdowns. Let's see the next. Yeah, okay. We're not going to go down that list. Broken tackles. Who broke the most tackles? Of course, Darius Martin. 93 broken tackles to lead the entire RFL. And then we had Jacob McDonald, second, 89. Tavion Hall broke 77. Still top 5 in these categories, even though he didn't score like that. Madison Axel, 70. And then at number 5, Kenny Steele with 60. Yards after contact. This is crazy.
Oh, man.
Beat the next man by almost 300 yards. Darius Martin had 741 yards after contact. Talk about a freight train. Then you had Madison Axel with 494. Kenny Steele, 478. Jacob McDonald, 476. And Marlon Marshall with 469. He was great this year, man, after contact. And he's in the top 5, of course, because of that. Longest run, Donovan Rhodes, a 98-yarder. And I think that was in an RFL game.
Yes, it was.
That's fire. Receiving-wise. What do you say?
I said Vontae Bryson's was not. He was next.
Oh, okay. Receiving wise, receptions, top 5 in receptions. Romeo Jackson, 116 receptions. You had Pico McCullough at 109. Elijah Bentley at 107, along with tight end Dexter Roy, who again had a 1,000-yard season. And we didn't have a tight end of the year award, but we will. I'll add that onto the graphics. So he will be tight end of the year again in the RFL. Then we had DeAndre Cain with 105. I think that's top 5. Yeah, top 5 right there. Top 5 in receiving yards. Romeo Jackson, 1,614. 2, you had Pico McCullough, 1,597. 1,499, just a yard off of 1,500. Elijah Bentley. C.J. Robinson still top 5 in receiving yards here in the NRC, 1,362 at 4. And then at number 5, DeAndre Cain coming in at 1,361. Average yards per game, Romeo Jackson, 94.9. Pico McCullough, 93.9. Elijah Bentley, 88.2. John Johnson, 80.3. He was a dog. And then C.J. Robinson, still top 5 with 80.1. Touchdowns. Elijah Bentley led the NRC in receiving touchdowns with 15. Then in second and third place, you had Romeo Jackson and Pico McCullough with 14. And then fourth and fifth, we've got Amari Manuel and Latavius Austin with 12 touchdowns. Most yards after the catch, Pico McCullough, 592 receiving yards after the catch. Can't remember what the ARC was, but he got the highest, right?
Yeah, I believe Pico's is the highest.
Yeah, Pico's yards after catch game was crazy this year. We'll skip on. That's not a running back, a wide receiver. Romeo Jackson was second amongst wide receivers with 460. And we had Dexter Roy here at 411 as a tight end beast. Larry Cruz, man, what a season for him for the Lancers. 372 rack yards. And then we had Andre Augers for the Tigers, with 363. And I think top 5 right here closes with Nicholas Andrews with 356. All right, longest reception, Pico McCullough, that 93-yarder. That was in a game. And on defense, tying the record for the most tackles in the RFL, in RFL history, another rookie, Tyler Cage with 193 total tackles on the season at number 2. Look at the Alabama boys, man. Nolan Carroll, number 2, 188. 5 off the record. DeMarco Landolt still top 5 at the linebacker position with 183 at 3. Antoine Buck, old vet, 180. Then Taylor Mays with 175, top 5 there. Most tackles for loss. This is the record that I don't think anybody's going to touch. 51 tackles for loss by Nashawn Richardson. Absolutely incredible. Then the next closest guy, this is incredible too, but that's just how amazing 51 tackles for loss by Nashawn Richardson was. The next guy had 33, and that was Marquis Sowell. Marvin Woolfolk with 29, along with Stephen Wilcox for third and fourth place. And then in fifth place, it's three-way tie. We got Dante Floyd, Drake Dawkins, and Kevin Kudon with 25 tackles for losses this season. Leading in sacks, he tied the RFL leader on the ARC with Delahart, 23 sacks. That's why this guy, hands down, best player in the RFL this year. 23 sacks there. Second place, Marvin Woolfolk, along with Randall Sylvester with 17 and a half. Then we had 17 from Dante Floyd at 4. And then at number 5, Dwayne Costin with 15. Top 5 in interceptions. 9 interceptions to lead the NRC conference, tying the previous record in season 7. Rashad Chamberlain with the 9. Sheldon Reinhardt with 7. Eric Straughter with 7. Darius Young with 7. And Spencer Garland with 7. That's your top 5 in interceptions right there. Oh, we didn't even look at pass deflections, but top pass deflections. Oh, 17 pass deflections by Xavier Richwalski. Branton Sneed got 16. Spencer Garland 14, Chapman 14, and then Sheldon Reinhardt 13 there. You don't look at the catches allowed since they don't add those in the games. Forced fumbles. 4 forced fumbles by Antonio Daniels Jr. and Cole Bacon and Rashawn Berry. Then for the threes, we got Max Knight, Braylon King Moore. Oh, this list goes down for a while, so I'm not going to go through that. But you can see, well, I guess I could go through it. It's not too many guys after that. Braylon King Moore, Roosevelt Mixon, Keno Thetford Jr., the rookie right there, Taylor Mays, Nashawn Richardson, just doing everything, and Tim Pennington. And defensive touchdowns. Reese Goodall, at least he gets his name called right here, Forbes.
There he
3
is.
defensive touchdowns. Tied for second place in the league with a couple others from the ARC. And then we have Deshaun Abbas with 2, Rashad Chamberlain with 2. And those 2 were for big game winners, I think. And Sheldon Reinhardt with 2 as well. And we're not going to go down to one list. And then kicking, we'll get a look at the longest kick. Kick long, yeah. Longest field goal kick in the NRC side, A.J. Moore with a 57-yarder. A lot of missed kicks this year because of these guys trying
Attempting
from deep.
55-plus yarders.
Yeah. Steph Curry's out here. Okay, nothing punting we can look at. And then kick return is how we choose our guys. So let's go ahead and get a look at yards. Of course, they just getting a lot of attempts. Who had the best average? Trey Drain. And he had a touchdown.
Was that in he only had 14 kick returns.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And was that in an NFL game?
I think it was, but yeah, it was an NFL game.
I don't. Those only 14 returns though.
Yeah. Let's see who
I don't
else
know
had a
if
touchdown.
Bones
Austin Bone. Oh yeah, and he was returned, so he looked like he got that.
Was that in a RFL game though? I don't remember.
I think we could check. Definitely can check right here. Was it kick return we were looking at?
Touchdowns, Desperados. Yep.
Yeah, he got that in the Desperados game.
So it'll be Austin Bone.
Austin Bone. Welcome to the Pro Bowl. He played all year and had one. There you go. Yeah, nobody else touched him on that. Punt return. No touchdowns, so no punt return touchdowns at all this year.
So it looks like it's just going to be Larry Clark.
The best average. Let's see who had the most returns.
Yeah, Larry Clark also had the biggest average.
He did. Okay, yeah, Larry Clark for the Steamers. There you go, Justin. You guys getting in there. And that's it for top 5, guys. So I just want to go through that list just to have this on display for guys that, maybe don't want to go through all the website stuff. At least you get a look at the top 5 in categories here. If you want to go all the way in and get a look at it for yourself, please, guys, if you can, that's already part of a Discord. Somebody drop the Neon Sports links in the chat for guys to go ahead and use, or also on the YouTube channel, comment section. That helps out for guys as well who watches it after the fact. But yeah, that's it for the stats, man. We went through the standings. I don't think there's anything else really to go through.
Nope. I think all that's left is fun facts with Pat.
Yeah. So let's go ahead, get into the fun facts with Pat, man. Get some reloads out there. Even though nobody's really going to use it unless you're in the playoffs. This is where college series, guys. This is why we tell you to watch. You can earn some reloads right now. But let's go see. All right, question number 1. Reed Wagner led the RFL in passing yards with 5,661. Who finished in second place? Probably should have did these before the fact. All right, hold up.
I don't think that's right though. I was someone not instantly guesses. We just went over all the stats.
Also got to remember, this is
both conferences.
Yeah, this isn't just one conference. So Timmy Merritt is not it.
The same faded red just said Timmy Merritt again.
I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt that we heard it after the fact. No, I mean that he just didn't hear it on his end yet. So let the college guys get the reloads. Is there any college guys even in here though? I don't think there is. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right.
Jones. McCain said Justin Jones.
Oh, he got it right just in time. Justin Jones is correct. He is second in the RFL, in actual RFL passing yards, 5,002. Well, we went through that, so that's the top 5. All right, question number 2, top 4. I mean, Nashawn Richardson and Carter Delahart each had 23 sacks to lead the RFL in season 8. Who finished third in sacks? Mentioned this earlier today.
Drew Brewer.
And he got that correct. Drew Brewer.
Okay.
21.5 sacks. My boy McCain trying to get some reloads for his next
He better.
hoping
I mean,
he
I
make it
think
to the
I think
conference
he's already.
championship.
I think he's already used all 30 points.
Oh yeah. No, he's done.
So he's just making it so where no one else can get it.
Oh, we got Devin Diggs in here. He probably don't know no RFL stuff. Darius Martin won the RFL rushing title for season 8 with 1,758 yards. Who finished second?
Kingston Kenny.
Nope. Boy, McCain about to get 2 stacks.
Henry Barry.
And McCain
Madison.
got it. Axel.
Yeah.
Madison Axel. Second in rushing yards this season. And the last question. The last time the Snowhawks played the Diablos, who had the game-saving interception in the end zone with 20 seconds remaining? This one might be tough. It will be tough. Unless you watched it and can remember.
Over.
Wow. That boy wanted 2 stacks. Mario Culver is correct. Diablos won 25-20 in week 11 this season. All right, so Miles McCain literally aced all 4 fun facts with Pat questions, and so he will get 2 stacks and reloads. I guess it will help him re-up towards the, if he doesn't already have 5,000, at least it makes him get closer to that, or at least max him out at 5,000 once the reloads get reset. So that's it, guys. I will go ahead and, of course, this will be open questions. I'll put up the RFL playoff bracket. If you guys got anything to say, we just got over 2 hours on the podcast. The numbers started to go down after we started going through statistics. Most guys bounced out, but hey, really, that's all we have to cover. Did that for our main guys who usually just want to watch things, as we go live with it. And so, yeah, feel free to ask us any questions. Won't stay here long. We'll probably leave. If it gets pretty good, we could stay for 11 more minutes and get out of here at 10:45 Eastern time. But if nothing goes on, we'll just dead it. and see you guys for the divisional round, tomorrow.
Yeah, Pat, I think that's what we're doing for the divisional round when there's only 4 games, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday.
Yeah. The schedule's already out.
No, for the next round after this week.
Oh, yeah. Because there'll be just 4 games left.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Pro Bowl roster will be announced on Pro Bowl week.
Yeah. So we know who the guys are, but at least you guys just found out who the returners are. Because, that way we ain't got to do no extra work after this for us. Already determined.
Yeah. The players just got to be built, right?
Yeah. As the players get built, we're all good to go. And I'll probably put Mitch on that because he was talking about it. You could join him too if you want.
Yeah, because the only thing we're waiting for is to see who the replacements will be for whoever makes the Relo Bowl.
Yeah. All right. I think we might be good here, guys. Not seeing any questions. So I think we're going to go ahead and call it. This was a good podcast, man. Hopefully we get you guys the information and everything you guys needed. The RFL playoffs for Season 8 is officially here, guys. Make sure y'all tune in tomorrow. The first game will be taking place at 8 p.m. Eastern. And to the bottom right side, that's the first game. Number 4, Salt Lake City Elks. The NRC West Division winners will take on the number 5 and reigning defending champions and the Columbus Explorers in Salt Lake City. So don't miss that game. I appreciate all you guys tuning in as always. Once again, glad to have you on here with me, Forbes. And I'll see you guys in Salt Lake City for the first playoff game in the wild card between the Elks and the Explorers. Till next time, peace.